Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the subject English for Job Interviews. My name is Hương. I'm a teacher in the Department of Foreign Languages. In the previous lesson, we learned about difficult questions. Before we come to the lesson today, I'd like to review what we learned in the previous lesson. We are going to do it by using QR code. You can scan with your smartphone or tablet to quickly access information. This will take you to our review activity. You should spend 5 minutes to complete the task. Okay, I hope this activity can remind you of the previous lesson. Now let's move on to our lesson today. Today we will explore Unit 3, Fillers and Unprepared Questions. Let's get started. Our lesson today will be divided into two main parts. Part 1, Term fillers. Part 2, unprepared questions. Now let's explore Part 1. We start with a discussion by answering two questions. Question 1, what if an interviewer asks something you haven't prepared for? Question 2, what if you can't think of an answer to an interview question? You will have 2 minutes to answer the questions. Okay, time's up. Let's share your ideas. Now I can recommend some suggestions. Firstly, don't panic. Then pause or stall. Pausing or stalling to give you extra time to think the answer. You need some small talk and time fillers. For example, that's a good question. I have to think about it for a second. Let's find out what are time fillers. Time fillers are activities intended to fill up whatever free time in communication. So, how can you make time fillers while answering the questions in the interview? I will show you some techniques. The first way is acknowledging the question. Acknowledge that the question is asked and that you're thinking about it. For example, that's a great question. Let me think about that. The second technique is repeating the question. For example, if you are asked, why do you want to work at ABC company? You can say, you like to know why I want to work here, okay? Or if they ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You can say, in 5 years I like to be. Now move on to the next technique. Ask the interviewers to repeat or rephrase the question. Repeating the question will give you time to think, while also letting the interviewer know that you have understood and are really thinking about the question. For example, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please? But remember, don't use this more than once because it will look like you're not paying attention. The last way to make time fillers is by using noises. Noises such as give extra thinking time, but remember, don't use it too much. And you shouldn't use time fillers too much while answering the questions. Now it's time to practice by writing down any time fillers you know. You will have 3 minutes to note down as much as possible. Okay, time's up. Now we share the answers. You can see some examples on the slide. For example, well, I hadn't considered it from the point of view, however. Or, I'm not sure what I would do, but I think I could probably. Or, I suppose that in the case like that I could. Or to tell the truth, I hadn't considered something like this, but given the circumstances, I could probably. Or you can say, I'm sorry, could you repeat the questions, please? Or, sorry, could you clarify what you mean? I'm not sure that I understand what you are looking for. Or, well, it could depend on the situation. Of course, but quite probably I could. By using these time fillers, you can ensure that you provide well thought out and coherent responses during the job interview. but always remember not to use too much. That's all about top fillers. Let's move on to the next part. Part 2. Difficult questions. In this part, we will discover reasons why candidates need to answer difficult questions and learn how to answer some difficult questions. Let's get started. First of all, candidates need to answer difficult questions because all any interviewer wants to know is find someone who can do the job, wants to do the job, and can get along with others. So all you need to do is to win the job offer is show the interviewer that you are that person. Secondly, difficult questions help interviewers assess your experience level and comfort with difficult tasks. Now move on to some difficult questions. We will find out how to answer 5 difficult questions. Question 1. Why have you been out of work so long? Question 2. Why have you changed jobs so frequently? Question 3. How do you manage your work deadlines? And question 4. What is the most difficult situation you have faced? And question 5. We will discuss how to answer a situational questions. Let's discuss the first question. Question 1. Why have you been out of work so long? But before we discuss the way to answer this question, you need to spend 3 minutes to note down how to answer the question. Okay, time's up. Now we'll discuss the way to answer this question. With this question, you should refer the tips below. Focus on sharing anything positive that you have done during this period. By emphasize any skills or knowledge you gained during this period. Or talk about how you have kept current with classes or part-time work, or what you have been doing to keep the specific technical skills of the job. You can also talk about how you used other transferable skills and applied professional values in whatever work you were doing, noting that these skills are fresh, current, and needed in every job. Here are some examples. I have invested some time in improving my education and skill set to contribute more fully to the company I will work for. Or I have spent some time volunteering and making contributions to local organizations to support my community. I believe that this experience has given me invaluable skills that will assist me advance the company's goals. After that, you should show that you are ready by describing what you have prepared yourself to re-enter the workforce. For example, to stay ready for new prospects, I have kept up with industry's advancements and have been actively networking. And then link to the job, make a connection between what you have done during your time off and how it makes you a great fit for the position. For example, the skills and knowledge I gained during my time off complement the requirements of this position, and I'm excited to bring a fresh perspective to your company. I recommend you sample answer. You should spend maybe 2 minutes to read the sample answer and see how does the candidate answer the question. Okay, that's all about the way to answer the question, why have you been out of work so long? Now move on to the next question. Question 2. Why have you changed jobs so frequently? You will have 3 minutes to note down the way to answer this question. Okay, now we'll compare your answer by looking at the following tips to answer the question. There are many reasons why you have changed jobs frequently. If you have been caught in mergers and layoffs, explain. If you have switched jobs frequently, you can attribute to the youthful decision. Now you realize what a mistake your job hopping was, or you may wish to impress the interviewer that your job hopping was never due to poor performance and that you grew professionally due to each job change. Okay, it's time for you to look at the sample answer. You should spend 2 minutes to read the sample. Okay, thumbs up. Now we see what we can learn from the sample answer. In the example, the candidate talked about the reason for changing each job, then expressed that job hopping was never due to poor performance and that he grew professionally due to each job change. When faced with unexpected question in a job interview like this question, you can think of using term fillers such as, well, that's a thoughtful question, that help you formulate a thoughtful and coherent response. Now we will discuss question 3. How do you manage your work deadlines? Think about the way to manage your work deadlines. You should spend 3 minutes to write out your answer. Alright, it's time to compare your ideas by looking at the following tips. When giving the answer to this question, remember that the purpose of this question is to check the time management and organization abilities that enable you to multitask productively. Therefore, you should address the prioritized do recycle review cycle. You set time at the end of every day to review that day's activities and plan tomorrow's. You prioritize all the planned activities and stick to those priorities to make sure the important work is attended to first. And then share a specific instance where you successfully manage deadlines. Next, we come to example. Okay, let's see the sample answer. In the example, the candidate prioritized all the planned activities and stick to those priorities to make sure the important work is attended to first. Then the candidate shared a specific example where he or she successfully managed deadlines. Let's move on to the next question, question 4. What is the most difficult situation you have faced? You have 3 minutes to note down your answers. Thumbs up. Let's share your ideas. When you are being asked what is the most difficult situation you have faced, you should answer 2 different questions. The first question, what do you consider difficult? And you need to answer the second question, how did you handle it? The interviewer will be evaluating both critical thinking and technical skills. So don't talk about problems with co-workers. Instead, focus on a job-related problem and provide a systematic and meaningful response that exhibits job problem-solving skills, ability to learn from challenging experiences. Now turning to samples. So look at the sample answer. You should spend 2 minutes to read the sample answer. Okay, in the sample answer, the candidate answered the question by describing the situation, the challenges faced, the actions taken to resolve the issues, the outcome, and the lessons learned. Now we will discuss the last question. That is a situational question. The question is, if you were faced with an emergency situation and your boss was not available, for example, on the computer's class, and you needed information from the computer for a client in front of you, so what would you do? So what should we do with this situation? You will have 3 minutes to note down the way to solve the problem. Okay, let's compare your answer with the following tips. This question aims to demonstrate problem-solving skills, the ability to stay calm under pressure, resourcefulness, and focused on customer service. Therefore, you should emphasize the importance of staying calm in an emergency. When answering a situational question like this, if you cannot answer immediately, you can think of using time fillers that help you to buy a few moments to think before answering the question. For example, well, if that situation happened, first I could be calm so that I could think clearly and approach the problem efficiently. With this situational question, we also explain how you could communicate with the clients to keep them informed. And for example, I could inform the clients about the technical issue and reassure them that I am working to resolve it as soon as possible. And then discuss any backup system or alternative methods to access the necessary information. For example, I would check if there are any backup systems, such as paper records or other digital devices that could supply the relevant information. You also seek immediate assistance from available resources. For instance, I could immediately contact the IT support team to report the problem and request aid in restoring the system as quickly as possible. In addition, I could contact colleagues who may have access to the necessary information or possibly provide assistance. If the information is not immediately available, I would offer to collect the client's contact information and follow up with them once the system is back up and running. And we mentioned how important it is to document the incident and report it to the job manager when they are available. For example, once the immediate problem has been fixed, I will document the incident, including the steps taken to address it, and report it to my managers so that they are informed and any long-term remedies may be implemented. Okay, that's all about how to answer unprepared questions. Let's conclude the lessons today. In Unit 3, we've learned about time fillers. We learned about strategies for handling unprepared questions, and remember that using fillers appropriately and handling unprepared questions confidently can significantly improve your interview performance. Practice these techniques regularly to enhance your communication skills and stay prepared for any questions that come the way. At home, give your ideas for these questions. Question 1. Why are you leaving your current post? Question 2. How do you handle stress and pleasure? Question 3. A situational question. What would you do if you were the last person to leave the building and you had forgotten to take the key with you? Everyone else has gone home and you are left alone in an empty building. Alright, that's enough for today. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Goodbye.